topic today chosen by Dr. Sabnis is Tamasoma Jyotirga, from darkness lead me to light. It's a Parliament mantra from Brihadaranya Upanishad. Dr. Sabnis is an industry expert with 40 years of experience in the domain of civil engineering and holds a PhD on sustainability from Jain University, Bangalore. His honorary responsibilities include being a principal consultant at ASP SDI Sustainability Auditing Consultants. He's a member of TC14 Committee, Asian Council for Civil Engineers, advisory body to UN on Sustainability Development Goals. Mirampika School for New Age, an oral school managed by Sri Aurobindo Complex Trust, known as SACT, is a part of Sri Aurobindo Complex at JP Nagar, Bangalore, and it was established in 1985 on the exemplary model of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Pondicherry. One of the main objects of SECT is to develop Sri Aurobindo Complex into a state training center in integral education. Dr. Sabnis was instrumental in the formation of SECT and also its managing trustee, founded Mirampika School for New Age in 1989. As a founder chairman from 1989 to 2006, he ensured that the school evolved integrally and stood firm on the foundation of integral education based on the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. The change of guard took place in November 2006 with Dr. Sabnis as a managing trustee of SECT and also the chairman of Mirampika School for New Age. Dr. Ajit Sabnis is also the chairman of Sri Aurobindo Society State Committee Karnataka and member of Executive Committee of Sri Aurobindo Society Pondicherry. Dr. Sabnis has been very fortunate to have the mother's one-to-one individual darshan from 1965 to 1973 and many, many balcony darshans. So even sitting in Mathugoda in her lap, which he believes has completely transformed his course of life. So thank you very much, Ajit Bhai, for making the special journey from Cambridge to London to be with us today and to lead today's workshop. Tamasoma Jyotirga.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste, good evening to one and all. First of all, I think it's a great privilege and honor here to be visiting this center because exactly on this date, 2 months back, 4th July, you were there in JP Nagar Centre, Bangalore. Sushma was there, and then thank you very much for initiating this. And I was thinking of visiting this center, but never looked good for any kind of interaction. To be very honest with you people, the days, the last 8 days, 10 days have been so hectic. I have not been able to really gather all the thoughts to put it across to you in a, as in a nutshell. But anyway, then I thought we are all same family, belong to the same family, so there is no hesitation to interact with family members, all I know, on the particular topic. It's a very interesting topic. So you may find at some point in time, you may find the talk to be a little discreet here, there, not continuous, but it doesn't matter. I think ultimately, I'm sure all of us, and she's there, so when her grace is there, she will, I'm sure, make sure that whatever she wants, it will happen. And equally so is 150th birth anniversary year of Sri Aurobindo. It's absolutely amazing because I have been visiting several places in India, and I really know how exactly there has been. Definitely, we can say that it is kind of a special need of the hour that is happening. As if as if nothing had happened in the last 10 years, and suddenly everything is happened in 1 year. The government of India responding so positively, and then the Prime Minister himself, and then Amit Shah ji himself, they're responding so positively. In fact, 3 days back, Pradeep Bhaiya went and met Amit Shah ji for the second time. So the response was so good, very positive. So a lot of things are happening, positive things are happening, which we don't know in the scheme of divine things what will be there. So that is how it is. So I'm equally happy to be here to share ideas, whatever little I know, we can interact and then take it forward. Today's topic is what we are going to discuss. Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma. These, as rightly said, these 3 lines are drawn from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And actually, if you look at the 6 attributes that are involved in these 3 lines, that is Asatoma Sadgamaya, that is Asat, and the existence. That is non-existence and all existence in Asatoma Sadgamaya. In Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, it is darkness, and then on the other side is the light of the knowledge, ignorance and knowledge. And in the 3rd line, we find mortal and then immortal aspects of our existence. So these are the 6 different attributes which are available to us in 3 pairs. And each pair, if you see, what happens is in each pair, they are at the 2 extreme ends of the bandwidth. So that is from the lowest to the highest. So essentially, these 3 lines are actually form the essence of Sanatana Dharma itself. And it is also the Vedanta itself. It is one of the key points in Vedanta. And these, what do they indicate? They actually tell us what should be our spiritual journey. What is the aim of human life? What is the purpose of human life? Isn't it? That is what it is. So from non-existence to, it is not just existence, it is all existence. From non-existent to all existence. And then it is not just asat, it can also happen from untruth towards the truth, from non-existence towards all existence. And Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, from darkness to light, or from ignorance to knowledge. So these are the 2 extremes. And then from mortal to immortal aspect of it. So this is what the mortal to immortal. Now what happened was, in the earlier years, or probably in the earlier parts of the history, and even if we don't go much too back about it, now let us say in Buddha's era. Now the Buddha's era, the whole concept, the understanding of life itself was that life is a misery. Entire life is a misery. So running away from the misery, how do you basically get away from the misery? So to avoid this, you run away from everything, you go away from everything, and get out of the cycles of birth and rebirth. Now, when Shankara came into the picture, subsequently Shankara, Advaita philosophy, everything, they came together. Then when Shankara came into the picture, the entire life was focusing towards the aspect of Maya. So again, you run away from the society, leave everything, because everything is Maya, leave everything and then go away. So what happened was, the purpose of human life itself became as if you run away from everything and seek individual moksha. And this is where Sri Aurobindo comes here and then makes a traditional, contribution that this is not the truth. The aim of life, or the purpose of life, is not running away from the society, but being in the midst of society. How everything can be said, every activity of life can be converted into a perfect perfection, and then how life itself can be converted, transformed into from lower nature to higher nature. So Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, or it is, I have just taken one line. Any one of those lines actually is our spiritual journey. Our spiritual journey from matter to spirit. It is our spiritual journey from transformation of lower nature to the higher nature. It is the journey of evolution of consciousness, or it is journey of adventure of consciousness. So Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya is, we can simply take it as It is the adventure of consciousness. And as far as Sri Aurobindo is concerned, adventure of consciousness is nothing but the evolution of consciousness itself. The entire process of evolution which has happened, which has been happening since last 2000 crores of years, or 15 to 20 billions of 15 to 20 billions of years. So this is all happening is just not for the for without any purpose. There is a purpose. And so once this is happening, and evolution is nothing but, in terms in the backdrop of Sri Aurobindo, evolution is nothing but the evolution of consciousness itself. So this essentially is the understanding of today's title, the Tamasoma Jyotirga. So it is the adventure of consciousness. It is our spiritual journey which we would like to take upon. Now, there is a beautiful quote from the mother which says that on these 3 lines, a new light shall break upon the earth, a new world shall be born, and the things that were promised shall be fulfilled. These are the words of the mother. And this is very apt to the lines what we are discussing today. Tamasoma. Now, when we talk about entire journey as the adventure of consciousness, we need to understand absolutely very clearly what exactly is the consciousness. How do we define consciousness? Because if I look at it from the scientific point of view, consciousness even today is one of the biggest conundrums, or in scientific terms, it is called as the hard problem. What exactly is the hard problem? A problem that is not yet found its a solution. We don't have convincing answers to it. Okay. Now the origin of Earth, whether the Big Bang took place or did not take place, why it happened. So there is no answer, clear-cut answer, even by science today. So that becomes one of the hard problems. So similar is the case of consciousness. There has been tremendous progress or understanding, advancements in understanding and analyzing consciousness, but it is not satisfying answers have not been given. So what do we actually mean by consciousness? Consciousness in general term, as we understand, is some sort of direct or indirect awareness. We can, or probably we say that it is probably related to some kind of a cognition. It is some kind of awareness, some kind of, so it just stops there. But when we start thinking or talking about consciousness in terms, in the light of Sri Aurobindo, it has got completely a infinitely vast meaning of what consciousness is. So if you observe, Sri Aurobindo never writes consciousness with small letter c, it is always capital C. So it is this consciousness Now what is this consciousness? Now this consciousness, as Sri Aurobindo exclusively, let us focus it only on what Sri Aurobindo says. And for him, consciousness is the fundamental reality. It is everything in the world that exists is only because of consciousness. For everything that exists, behind everything is nothing but the consciousness. It is the alpha, it is the omega, he says. It is the alpha, it is the omega, without which nothing happens. And it is the same Isha of Isha Vasya Sarva. And it is actually the essence of Tenamya Pranamapi Nachalati of Gita. Without his consent, even the blade of grass does not move. And that is Tenamina Pranamapi Nachalati. And the other part of it is the Isha in the Taittiriya Upanishad also it says, actually in Taittiriya Upanishad it says Brahmavidapnoti Param. That means the one who understands Brahman, or one who even tries to understand Brahman, also is actually supreme. He falls into the realms. He is unable to understand the realms of consciousness. So, and it goes on further. What is the characteristics of this consciousness? So this consciousness is nothing but Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. It says this, Satyam Ritam Brihat, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. These are actually the objective expressions of a subjective quality of Brahman. So these are the attributes of Brahman, And this is what the consciousness is about. And when this same consciousness is responsible for microcosm and also at the microcosm, when this consciousness, all intelligence, everything, when this consciousness diffuses itself and spreads across the universe, then it becomes the macrocosm. And when this consciousness condenses itself and concentrates itself, it comes as a microcosm to us. So it is this consciousness which is, in some religions it is called Abraham, in some religions it becomes Ibrahim, and in Hindu religion it becomes Brahman. And it is ultimately the same consciousness which actually is responsible, is the fundamental reality for everything. So it is for having, very briefly, Sri Aurobindo goes and then explains in Life Divine chapters and chapters on this consciousness, how relevant the consciousness is. And it is very important that these things come into picture and that people are opening to understanding these things. So now let us forget about, for having understood very briefly what consciousness is, now let us try to come back to our journey. What exactly is this spiritual journey we take up? It is just not possible for us just to take up the journey or know about the journey. Okay. Now, let us take a very simple example. Suppose all of us, I think we have all undergone this experience. Suppose if I want to take up a journey from Cambridge to London. Okay. Now, what do I can take up journey on my own, or probably to know if the distance is too far, if the distance is long, I would like to take a guide with me. And it is that guide who knows the route, who knows the way, and who also knows the different stations and then all those the characteristics of those different stations. And it would be easy for me to understand the journey, my spiritual journey. So when even in our mundane life, coming from two stations, between two stations, we need a guide. We need guidance to take up the journey, to understand our journey. Isn't it necessary to have a guide to take up this spiritual journey, the spiritual odyssey? Now, this spiritual journey, so we come to understand from two lines. Sri Aurobindo gives us two hints in Savitri, the two lines which are absolutely important. You know, the unfelt self deep within, who is our guide, the unknown God above, who is the goal. You know, the unfelt self within, who is the guide, and the unknown God above, who is the goal. Now here, when we are in our journey, in this spiritual journey, which is nothing but the adventure of consciousness, in our spiritual journey, so Sri Aurobindo tells us that deep within us, the guide is here. You consider him as the guide. Okay, the guide is very clear now. The guide aspect of it is clear. Now the destination is clear. The destination he has given, the God. Now the same. Now whether we call it as God, we call it as the absolute, we call it as supramental, we call it as ultimate truth. Whatever names you may call it, is ultimately the characteristic of this consciousness. Now we know the goal and we know the guide. And where is the guide? He is deep within us. How do you find? Now the next question is, how do I find my guide? How do I begin my journey? So the journey begins is to find my guide. And all of us are aware of that wonderful statement of Sri Aurobindo, where he says, my yoga starts where all other yogas stop. What does it mean? Is it a statement of sheer arrogance? Or is it a statement of experience? Or what exactly is this? Now that you will come to know a little later. Now we are looking for who is the guide and then how do we approach that guide. Now I am reminded of a beautiful story where the Bhrigu Maharshi goes and talks to his father. He says that, Father, I would like you to tell me, I am not able to understand. How do I find my guide? How do I find my true self? Who am I? How do I know who am I, and then where do I find him? And this Varuna says, Varuna, Bhargu is his son. He tells, son, go and do tapasya. Go and seek for this knowledge, and then you will understand who, what the true self is. And then this Bhrigu Maharshi, he goes and then make the tapasya, comes back of several years, comes back to his father, and then he says, oh father, I have understood Anna Brahma. You know, I have understood Anna Brahma. Aham Annam Brahmeti Vajanat, he says. Annam Brahmeti Vajanat. I have understood Annam, that is Annamaya Kosha, Annamaya Purusha, as the deity. But I am not convinced it is not the true Purusha. It can't be the true Purusha. And now it is this time when the father says, Anyontar Atma Pranamaya. You know, then he says that there is another layer. When you say that Annamaya Purusha you have understood, but you are not satisfied, go and look for Annamaya Kosha. After Annamaya Kosha, the behind Annamaya Kosha, there is Pranamaya Kosha. And the deity which governs the Pranamaya Kosha is the Pranamaya Purusha. So this main Purusha, main deity, which is deep within us, he actually expresses himself into Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha, Vijnanamaya Purusha. So these are the different aspects of that Purusha who actually expresses. So when he doesn't understand, then again the Bhrigu Maharshi goes back and then he says, he again sits for tapasya, comes back, and then I have understood Pranamaya and Prano Brahmeti Vajanat. I have understood Prana, Pranamaya Purusha as Brahma, but not satisfied. Again the story repeats, you know, Anyontara Atma, Manomaya. There's a different, within these two, Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha, are in the third layer, that is the Manomaya Kosha. So he goes like this, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, then Manomaya Kosha. Even then finally he comes to understand the Vijnanamaya Kosha and then Vijnanamaya Purusha. Even then it is not satisfied. Then Varuna says, the father says that still there is, the final Purusha is there, who is Anandamaya Purusha, whose characteristic itself is bliss. So try to understand. And he arrives at the final Purusha, understanding of the final Purusha. So this is our Vedic understanding of the human construction. How are we constructed? Where do we find the true self? The true self which is deep within. Now please remember that we have just begun our journey. We are trying to find out where our guide is. So this is what we are trying to find out, where our guide is. And then guide is within us. And then that within us journey is not a small journey. It is a journey through layer by layer, layer by layer, layer by layer. So it is some kind of a hierarchy we can understand. The Purusha, the main Purusha is deep within. And then at every stage, at Pranamaya Kosha, which is, and you just, you know, it's very easy to draw, to understand when we start drawing parallels. So you imagine a human being to be made up of several planes of consciousness. Now suppose I am divided vertically and horizontally in infinite numbers of planes. Okay, Chris, like Yamarai, you know, in horizontal and vertical sections, you take 1 mm pictures and this thing. And similarly, imagine the entire universe is split into infinite number of layers in vertically and horizontally. Every layer in the individual corresponds to that particular layer in the universe. So that is why Sri Aurobindo says that both individual and universal are required for each other's ascent. Both are required. Universe cannot say that without man I will progress, or man cannot say that without universe I will progress. So, but this is the relation, beautiful relation between the human being, the individual, and the universal. So as the individual Purusha is there, then the cosmic Purusha is also there. As the Annamaya Purusha is there, Annamaya Purusha is my deity, the governing deity for the Annamaya Loka, even at the universal level and also at the. So all my vibrations correspond to each other, and then imagine there is an interaction between how complex the human being can be. It is impossible for anybody to comprehend the complexity of human being. Whatever may be the technology, we have not yet reached the stage, at least as on date. Okay, then we have, science has helped us to unwrap several layers of secrets of nature, which we were thinking it was a secret. Now it's revealed. So the one layer of nature we unwrap, there are thousands of other secrets which we come forward. So that is the progress, evolutionary progress. It keeps happening. Now, similarly, this is the Vedanta aspect of human construction. And now we come to the Sankhya also talks about, the Sankhya philosophy talks about the human being is constructed with 25 principles. Which are those 25 principles? The 25 principles are the 5 principles of Panchamahabhuta, that is the 5 gross elements, which, the ether, then the air, then the Agni, the fire, water, and then the Prithvi, the earth part of it. And there are associated tanmatras for it. So there is, for example, earth is associated with smell. The water is associated with taste. So these are the associated tanmatras, what are they called. So 5 Panchamahabhutas, 5 gross elements, and then 5 tanmatras, and then 5 karmendriyas, which are our active action organs, and then 5 jnanendriyas, that is the sensory perceptions. So these are the 20 principles, plus we have 3 principles of ahankara, buddhi, and manas. That is the ego, intellect, and the mind. These are the 3 aspects of it. And then 23, the 24th and 25th is actually the Purusha and Prakriti. So these are the 25 principles through which the human being is made. So actually, truly speaking, every individual, the universe is also made up of these 5 gross elements. The human beings are also made up of 5 gross elements. So percentage-wise also, whatever, for example, scientifically, if you want to start looking at it, 97% of whatever is available in the universe outside me is also inside me. All the gases which are available inside there, outside there, they're also inside me. Ultimately, the building block that makes the universe and the building block that makes the human being is exactly the same. What happens? Suppose if I think some of you are doctors. Now, ultimately, all the human beings, actually, suppose if I reduce him to an atom, I separate him. Human beings are made up of some systems, let us say cardiovascular system, skeleton system, respiratory, reproductive systems, etc. You remove all those things, then we are left with few organs. You divide this up, finally reduce those organs, then it reduces to tissues, and then few cells, and ultimately it reduces to atoms and then subatomic level. And exactly same thing, you can reduce the entire outside universe, whether it's a rock or a table or anything, that can also be reduced at subatomic level. The fundamental, that block that makes the universe, it remains the same. Now it is here where the consciousness comes into picture. Even if you see our journey right from the creation till now, if you see the journey, who are our ancestors? Is chimpanzee your ancestor? Just because Darwin said that man has come from ape, is he my ancestor? Or do we go back? Ultimately, how are we evolved? Suppose you go back, actually, my ancestor, your ancestor, probably is one of the dust particles of that cosmic dust, of that creation, which at the time of Big Bang, when it happened about, I don't know, you're comfortable with 15 to 20 billion years, or which we Indians are comfortable with about 2000 crores of years. 2,000 crores of years, 1,500 or 2,000 crores of years. And Sri Aurobindo says, if you take it all took place when the Big Bang takes place. Now, let us say science, most of the scientists, including Stephen Hawking, they have accepted Big Bang theory. There are several creation theories, but Big Bang theory is considered as one of the most acceptable theory. So, and it has got similarity in the Vedas. So, for example, the Nasadiya Sukta, which is the 129th mantra of Rigveda, 10th mandala, it talks about the creation and it talks about the Big Bang. Okay, now there was a Big Bang. So if you consider all these things, if you take the creation and what happened when suddenly the dust, we don't know what happened, what caused the creation. And the first line of Savitri, it was the hour before God's awake. What is that hour before God's awake? Can you just imagine? Now, this Nasadiya Sutta says there was no existence and then there was no existence. There was neither an existence nor non-existence. What is that situation? We can't even imagine. And science calls it a singularity. So when this whole thing happened, when all the dust slowly gathered together, then then there were galaxies formed, all the galaxies came together, then there were stars, and then the solar systems, all these things happened, and finally Earth came into the picture only about 4 to 4.5 billion years ago. Only about, in the span of about 2,000 crores of years of evolutionary history, our Earth is only about 450 years of history. So in this 450 crores of years of 4.5 billions of years, human being is only 1 lakh years. Human being means the first species which started walking on 2 limbs. And we in this form are called Homo sapiens sapiens, which are hardly 12,000 years. And in a span of 2,000 crores of years in the evolutionary period, 12,000 years, and then we have the audacity to say that we understand universe. And we have the audacity to say that man is at the last rung of the evolution. Logically speaking, this is where Sri Aurobindo comes into picture. Mother has given me some scientific bent of mind also, because I have been an engineer and then I have represented India in United Nations. So I have dealt with several scientists. I'll tell you, I came across a Japanese scientist who was 85 years old. I was in Kyoto. And then he told me, it was a shocking revelation to me. He told me that he was a physicist. He has 11 students, PhD students, who are doing his PhD on matter. And then he asks those students first to study chapter 11 and 12 of Sri Aurobindo's Life Divine, the matter and the not of matter first, to understand what exactly the matter is. So these are the kinds of scientific development, and then relevance of Sri Aurobindo comes into the picture. Now here Sri Aurobindo comes and then makes a statement that man is not last rung in the evolutionary process. The way man has been worked out, probably monkeys, when man was not there in the picture, every chimpanzee must have thought that I am the smartest. There is no other species which can come beyond me. So but then the human species came into the picture. And when the human species came into the picture, did all the monkeys convert into man? No, why? If from apes the human species has come, agreed, that in the evolutionary process. But why did not all the monkeys got transformed into man? So these are the questions where Sri Aurobindo talks about the critical mass aspect of it. The critical mass comes into picture when the nature finds that, okay, this is sufficient for me to make the transformation to happen to the next species. It takes whether you are willing or you are not willing. If I'm not willing, then I still continue to be a monkey. Isn't it? I'm happy in my own world as a monkey, but if I'm willing to cooperate, to take part in this evolutionary process, and that is what the mother tells us, either you cooperate or it will be, the circumstances will be enforced upon you, it will be crashed upon you. Either you willingly participate in the evolutionary process or you don't participate, evolution is going to happen. It's not going to stop here. And then what is that which is going to come? It is that which is going to come is the supramental being, which Sri Aurobindo talks about. Okay, now we talked about this journey. We have learned this part of journey, and then what the Sankhya philosophy says or the Vedanta says, and in what way Sri Aurobindo says that, in what way human construction is, in what way it is different from. But the beauty of Sri Aurobindo is everything is based on Vedas and Upanishads. He doesn't go anything beyond that. He keeps everything as the fundamental same principles the same, but his interpretation is different, which he takes it to a much, much higher level. Do you think that Sri Aurobindo was incapable of writing his books in Sanskrit? Why did he choose English as the language? Probably because he said he wanted the new knowledge, which is way beyond the traditional knowledge, and that has to be ultimately communicated. Is one of the biggest problem now is the communication. You don't understand me, I don't understand you. Why? Communication gap. Communication gap happens between husband and wife. Communication gap happens between two friends. Communication gap happens in the organization. Communication gap happens in scientists and spiritualists also. Probably a scientist doesn't understand what a spiritualist says. A spiritualist doesn't understand what scientists say. So what is that common language? We need to understand, we need to bring common language, and that is where Sri Aurobindo comes into picture. If you study what are the scientific terminologies Sri Aurobindo has used, there is a beautiful, somebody has actually listed this out. He even talks about the magical television glass when television was probably not invented. He talks about phantom limbs. Then he talks about robots, mechanical robots, which we are now talking about. He talks about artificial intelligence. Now, so there is a language which absolutely is required to be communicated. Now, when this happens, that's why probably Sri Aurobindo comes into the picture. And now he goes beyond all these analysis. That's why he calls Sri Aurobindo's, it is psycho-spiritual analysis of a human being. How is it constructed? How a human being is constructed? Please remember, we are still trying at the starting point of our journey, trying to find out who our guide is. We have not yet even embarked upon our journey. We are not even sat in the car. We are just trying to find out who our guide is. So, and now we are at Sri Aurobindo's feet to understand. And now he says, a human being, he takes far beyond, much the view much above. And then he says, human being is constructed of three systems, he says. The first system is the outer system, the exterior system. This exterior system comprises of our outer being, outer physical, outer vital, and then outer mental. Science, all these, our understanding, the present understanding, what Sri Aurobindo says, gets restricted to only these outer surfaces. All the progress, advancement that has been made till now is only in the realm of our outer surfaces. We have outer external, outer physical, outer mental, and outer emotional, outer vital. And now how do we go? inside it. This is the first system. And then if you see the parts of being of Sri Aurobindo, now it's a big subject which is a talk by itself. And he goes in Savitri, for your example, the mind, talks about 784 types of minds. Different names are given to Sri minds. He calls it. He doesn't call it by mind. There is a very complications between the understanding of mind by the Western understanding and by the Eastern understanding. In the East we say it is divided into 4 parts: the Chitta, which is the first layer, and then the Manas, which is the second layer. Third layer is the Buddhi, and the fourth is the sense of ego, I, Ahankara. This Ahankara should not be taken as a bad thing. And then that's why Sri Aurobindo says that ego is also a bar, and then ego is also a helper. And it is this Ahankara, it's this I, which gives us the sense of identity, sense of my existence, my survival. There's the self-esteem, and it is the identity which makes you separate from the other self. And this is most important. Now the second, and the Chitta, for example, which is the first step, which actually accumulates. It is Chitta aspect, this Chitta layer of the aspect of the mind. It actually takes photographs of click 360 degrees overview, 360 degree photograph. Whatever happens, I walk on this carpet, it takes photograph of this. It remembers. It's a storehouse of memory with trillions and trillions and terabytes of memory. So once that happens, it stores, and then it has got capacity to recall whenever it is required. And the Buddhi aspect of it comes where the discretion comes into the picture. So when we need to understand all these some basic parts of it, this comes into the inner aspect of it. The second system, which we call it as the subliminal system. Sri Aurobindo calls it as the subliminal system. The inner system, this is subliminal system, is, you can imagine a concentric circle. This is a concentric circle with an outer being and with the inner being and the inmost being. Also, Sri Aurobindo calls it as. So the subliminal system comprises of inner being and the inmost being. The inmost being is the psychic being, or it is, then of course let us for the time being, we say that it is a psychic being. And Sri Aurobindo again differentiates between what is the psychic being, what is central being. He goes further deep into it, and then what is true soul, what is desired soul, and all those things. But the second system comprises of these 2 things. The third system, which comprises, is along with these concentrated circles. There is in the horizontal plane, you have in the vertical plane, you have series of ascending and then descending orders. The planes of consciousness, the forces which keep ascending and then descending. So the series of ascending and descending consciousness, planes of consciousness, which come into the picture. So now the human being, with so much of complexity, he is connected. I am an individual. I have 2-dimensional plus 1-dimensional, 3-dimensional vertical. I am connected with all the inside, outside, with the universal forces are coming into it. So, but how do we do it? Now we have understood where the guide is. We have understood now what is the approach. How do we actually find the true guide? And it is not that easy journey from outside to inside. So it is a very simple formula. The more you grow inside, the more you grow outside. It automatically happens. The more you grow outside and more you grow inside, automatically your vertical growth happens. So this means to say that the only journey we need to take up is looking within. So all other things will automatically care. So what is most important is the surrender part of it. So between this gap, Sri Aurobindo says the gap is not very small. We all belong to a category of ordinary mind. All human beings. So when this, between this ordinary mind and the true self, what we are talking, the Satchidananda, what we are talking, the gap is too big, it's too large. So we need to understand different layers of minds. From ordinary mind, we climb to higher mind, and from higher mind, we go to illumined mind, from illumined mind to intuitive mind, and then overmind, and then the supermind, and then beyond the supermind is Satchit Ananda, which whose reflection, whose part is deep within us. So we don't have to keep looking up skywards and then search for God. No, search for Him here. So that is the simple journey which she talks about. So these layers of minds, this achievements, probably it may take few thousands of lives for us. It may happen in the next life. We really don't know. And what is important. So what is important is how do we surrender ourselves to the Mother? And then once we understand these things, this is actually where our journey comes to an end. That means once you become one with the self. And beauty is, and this is where for Sri Aurobindo, this becomes the starting point. And for Sri Aurobindo, he says that's why once you identify yourself with the psychic being, that is the first step. And that is why in his triple transformation of 3 steps, the first step is the psychicization, second step is the spiritualization, and third in this is the supramentalization. The beauty of Sri Aurobindo is he has not just written these things, he has shown it in his own life. Okay. Now, the first step is being born as a human being, and then he has shown how all these transformation can happen, how psychicization can happen, how spiritualization can happen, how supramentalization can happen. Now, if you remember the first step of psychicization, can you just recollect what is the first, that incident where Sri Aurobindo realizes this first step? For the first time when he meets Lile, Vishnu Bhaskar Lile. And he tells him, you go into Samadhi, and then it will take, Sri Aurobindo does it in 2 days. He masters, he silences his mind, and everything is over. In the first step is over for Sri Aurobindo in 2 days, 3 days. And then the second one, he shows it in the spiritualization. What is the second spiritualization? When you come one with this psychicization happens, that means when your psychic being comes in the front, and then we start listening to the psychic being. Normally what happens is the flux of forces of our outside world, of my exterior consciousness, they are so strong that we don't hear the voice of my inner being. So once I become very concentrated, once I start hearing the inner voice, then the spiritualization, the second step keeps happening. And what is that second step? The second step is that all in one and one in all. I am able to realize that all in one and then one in all. That beautiful statement of Sri Aurobindo, the eternal unity of the many and then infinite multiplicity of the one are the two aspects of the divine that appears to us. Infinite multiplicity of the one and the eternal unity of the many. So Sri Aurobindo is an extremely, his language, you don't understand which is where to look. Those oxymorons are so beautiful. So when it comes to that part, that aspect of it, so we need to understand. So it is when the second realization happens to Sri Aurobindo when he's in Alipur jail. He says, I start looking Vasudeva everywhere, in the jailer, in the jail, in the bars, in the trees, and everywhere. I see that. Third, of course, when it happens in Pondicherry, when he gives a mother's takes over, and then it happens in 56. The realization happens in 1956, February 29th. So he is there. I mean, he is in the subtle world. I mean, probably working. We don't know where they are working, but all we know is they are with us for sure. So they're guiding us. So this is the journey, a journey where adventure of consciousness is our journey. So this title is Tamasoma Jyotirga is our journey of our spiritual journey into the realms of our consciousness is. So how do we become one? We need to realize that what the true consciousness is, true self is, who am I? We should become one with it. Simple steps. And even those 3 steps, I don't know how many lives we need, even the single step itself. So he then further gives, so don't do anything, surrender to the mother. And just surrender to the mother. And rejection of everything, rejection of, what is to be rejected, surrender to the mother, she will take care of it. And then we need to, I'm sure, all of us have experienced mother's force in one way or the other. And I can tell you that there is definitely a manifestation, physical manifestation of the grace takes place many times. We just brush it aside by saying it's a coincidence. It is just a mere, is mere happening. We don't understand that, but what is important is actually we really don't understand from where that grace comes, where the transformation happens, and how it happens. So let us see. I think I appeal to everybody. Let us all pray together to her, to our masters, so that they will inspire us to embark upon this spiritual journey, to this adventure of consciousness. And we are very, very far away from it because we are all human beings with so many imperfections in us. We're not able to overcome one. We are not able to overcome the other one. We have our own priorities, obligations, and so many things we have. So I really don't know how, when we really start embarking, or or without knowing, we have already started. I personally feel that we're all here, and we are all chosen by the divine. As she says, divine chooses you before you choose the divine. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come here. So we are all here together, and then let us see how we go ahead. And this is our spiritual journey, and this is the adventure of consciousness. So let us embark upon it, and then we leave it to them to take us wherever we want. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Sabnis. I think you probably have elicited quite a few questions and pondering, so I'll lay it open to anyone who wants to ask a question. I certainly have 2 or 3 questions that have come up. So can I start off first by asking, you said that Sri Aurobindo has sort of based a lot on the Vedas and the Upanishads, and he's made it into a language that we try and understand. And you say that he is different because he's talking about it as a journey and what happens next and all that sort of thing. Does it actually then mean that others who have come, whether we call them enlightened souls or somebody like Buddha who's very enlightened, did they actually misinterpret Upanishads and Vedas, do you think? Why does it have to wait till Sri Aurobindo came along? Or was it the right time that Sri Aurobindo was there that we could understand it?
Yeah, finished. Yes. See, this is, Sri Aurobindo is within us. I mean, he's present, he was present amongst us, not too long, 100 years, 150 years. We are not here just because we had Advaita philosophy from Shankara. We had Dvaita philosophy from Madhva. We had Vishishtadvaita from Ramanuja, Buddha. There are several other philosophers who came and then said something. It doesn't mean that one is right or one is wrong. Or probably we are too insignificant or too incompetent to decide who is right, who is wrong. Okay. Now, let us take, this is a room, this is a film. Let us go to a theater. And a theater has got how many screens? One screen. But there are 8 to 10 doors to it. And it has got different, maybe earlier it used to be there, balcony used to be there, middle class used to be there, front class used to be there. People used to come together from different doors, but look at the same screen. And what is the screen? The truth, what is the picture which was shown on the screen was the only truth. Everybody would see the same truth. Probably the person who is sitting in the balcony is able to see it little clearly. A person who is able to see it in the middle may not be able to see it so clearly. And in the front portion, it is, you can just match this. So it doesn't mean that what is shown on the screen is interpreted wrongly. It is how I perceive that screen and then what is seen by me. That's why we are human beings. For example, why it is we are not in a position to comprehend completely what those people say. It is exactly what I'm trying to say is truth is only one. It has got several avenues to show. Then do we come to say that is Ravi Shankar right or Jaggi Vasudevan right? Who is right? Or Sri Aurobindo is right? Whether Vivekananda is right, Sri Aurobindo is right. So these are all the different avenues to seek. There is only one truth. Whoever appeals to you. That's why Sri Aurobindo is very clear in saying that even in integral education, mother tells it very clearly. Don't say that it is an integral education propounded by Sri Aurobindo and the mother. First you teach them and then finally inquisitive minds will come. Who has put it forth? So sir, what I'd like to say is that the truth is only one. It has got different avenues to approach it. And the way you approach it, probably I get convinced by Jaggi Vasudevans because I'm a scientist, I have scientific mind. Somebody else may say that he's convinced by somebody else. But logically, if I am convinced by Sri Aurobindo, I don't know anybody else, honestly speaking. I have grown up with only Sri Aurobindo and the mother. I don't know. If at all somebody, I have to compare somebody, I place Sri Aurobindo as my benchmark and then see others. For me, similarly, for the other person, Buddha may be the benchmark and then he will see him. Whether he vibes with him or no. And then Sri Aurobindo has never negated anybody. Even that's why he says that he surpasses. He probably at that time, 800 years ago, 1000 years ago, probably during the Buddha period, probably whatever the truth Sri Aurobindo has placed today would not have been received. That would have been received at that point in time. So, truth born too soon. There is a line in Savitri. You will not be able to bear the load of the truth. So, a truth has to be told appropriate at appropriate times. So, it doesn't mean that what they have said is wrong or those enlightened people. They're all avatars, undoubtedly. They're all avatars. All of them came and then gave the truth. So that's why I said Sri Aurobindo is the latest one who convinces all of us, whether you take him as a scientist, you read him as a philosopher or as a poet, you have his whole spectrum of his personality in front of you. You analyze him whatever way you want. He convinces you because logically, you cannot prove him wrong. Logically, you cannot. When he makes a statement that there is a possibility that a superhuman will come. Okay, whether you call him as a superhuman being or a better species than the present species, is there any way logically you can negate this? How can you? 2000 years, crores of years, it has not been negated, and then you can't just extrapolate it in next 100 years and then say that all 2000 crores of years is wrong. So I think they're all different avenues, and the truth has to be only those avatars know what extent the truth has to be said. And with the reference to Vedas, because every chapter of Life Divine starts with either the Vedic Upanishad, the reference. Okay. Now, here he says it all depends. The interpretation may not be wrong, but the interpretation may be several interpretations to one word, the Vedic word. To understand Savitri, Mother says that you should become Sri Aurobindo. To understand Savitri, I have to elevate myself to the level of Sri Aurobindo. Then only I can understand, isn't it? And that's what Sri Aurobindo wants us to do. That's why he wants us to take up this journey. And he says, don't go and play. So bring that force here. So establishing divine life upon earth is the goal of integral yoga. I suppose it's...
Yeah. Do you think, in how you explained it, the era that we are in, not only because of Sri Aurobindo, is very special because perhaps for the first time in a very concrete way, the mother has been present as well?
Yes.
Is it because maybe in the past, and when only parts of the truth were able to be received, perhaps that kind of Shakti wasn't around, and because since then the Earth's aspiration has been such that the mother has had to descend and then help us forward on our journey?
In my opinion, I think it would be absolutely wrong on our part to think that Mother and Sri Aurobindo are two different entities. They are not. They are Prakriti and Purusha. They're always together. Without Prakriti, the Purusha cannot function. And without Prakriti, which is nothing but his executive power, his administrative power, and the physical aspect of the mother, we are seeing in our lifetime. And then whether we are referring to that, whether the mother is coming, mother had to come physically. No, I don't know. Supramentalization happened when Sri Aurobindo was not there. It doesn't mean that he's not there. Both the first forces are there. Probably both of them are working towards the uplifting of the humanity, where you don't know where the leverage lies. In scientific terms, suppose if I want to lift very heavy thing, I really don't know where. So who is to break that? For the supramental light to come down, which has come down and then settled in and other things. We don't know why there are so many changes are there. Why there are so many. It's impossible to imagine, Sanjeev, that the climate change is happening for what? Global warming is happening for what? Is it? We really don't know why it is happening. You cannot, if you just leave it to the nature, then nature is ultimately what? It is one aspect of the Prakriti which is there. It's an expression. So I think they were never separate. For them, this 100 years or 78 years, 75 years, it doesn't make any difference because they are eternal. So they're eternally together. And okay, they make some appearances here and there, and then we don't know. Like Earth, they may have so many other places to visit.
Yes.
So I was just going to ask something similar, or just make a comment about the difference between the other avatars or other vibhutis and Sri Aurobindo although Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga is based on Vedanta and Upanishads, a lot of it, but also Tantra or Shakti that he brings forward, which hasn't been, like Sanjeev mentioned that as well. So that whole aspect of the mother, which is where it. So I just want, if you could expand.
See, what happens is basically when the integral yoga became Sri Aurobindo who gave us this integral yoga or the Purna yoga. He took the entire integral development of a personality integrally. That's why the physical education was also given equal importance. The similar psychic education was also, psychic development was also given importance. But I personally feel that though there is an explanation, tremendous amount of importance given to Tantra, and explanation is given to Tantra, but ultimately it is the Jnana Yoga which comes into the picture. And the beauty of Sri Aurobindo is when it comes to Karma Yoga, you dedicate everything. It is the Gita's reference essence also comes into the picture, because what Sri Aurobindo says is the entire, all life is yoga, when he says that every activity of your life should be offered to the divine, and also should be actually tried to make it as perfect as possible. Whatever element you bring, the element of Tantra, element of whatever aspect of the yogic philosophical system you bring in, but it needs perfection. So unless that is done, nothing is going to happen. So you need to. So when you have to have control on your emotions, so you need to exercise. You need the will. You need the Hatha Yoga aspect of it. You need the Tantra aspect of it. You need everything. Ultimately, you need some symbolism to have your faith. As long as Mother was there, we were very confident. Because we cannot comprehend the physical absence of the Mother. It is as simple as what you are saying. It is like, for us, it is the Mother. But how many of us really valued her presence? I mean, okay, those who came in contact with her, those who grew with her, or those who have heard of, all of us, though some might not have seen it, but they might have been more closer to her. We don't know. There was one tantric in a remote village of Karnataka. Never studied, where I think 200, 300 was the village population. He never studied, he never went to the school beyond 4th grade or 5th grade. And that too in local language, local medium. Contemporary, he was in those early 1900. He came in contact with Sri Aurobindo, completely dedicated, gave it to himself and Mother. He reached a stage where he could learn, he could read, write Latin, Greek, write commentaries on Life Divine, and explain Savitri. Can you imagine this? And believe me, no internet, no distant learning program, no email, no communication. He used to get it by post. And he used to go to a distant place, pick up that post, come, write it. Well, what do you call these people? He could explain line by line, line by line, line by line, word by word, and he has not studied English. And for us, without dictionary, we can't proceed. Yeah.
I was actually raised in the Western tradition, so I come with a very kind of Western perspective, and I was raised a Catholic, so those are my kind of spiritual, religious roots, if you like. So I'm very interested in this relationship between the East and the West, and how the Mother was a European. She was from Paris, she was born and raised in Paris. How Sri Aurobindo was raised in the West. He had a Western education. But what I'm really interested in is this connection between the Mother of Jesus, who is said to have been bodily taken into heaven on the 15th of August, and this connection between that date as being Sri Aurobindo's birthday, and this wonderful idea that the Christian tradition in general has of God incarnating on the earth, and then the mirror happening of God's mother, Jesus's mother, being physically taken into heaven. So I think that there's and that was a doctrine that was introduced in the 1950s. It's not an old doctrine. It's quite a relatively new one. And so the idea of the mother who comes to prominence in the tradition, I think Sri Aurobindo did talk about the mother is now come to the fore. She was always present, but she's now come to the fore. So, and I would like to hear your thoughts on that. That relationship it seems to be a very deep relationship and almost like an integral relationship between the deep Western tradition that flows deeply on with this Eastern tradition as well.
Yeah. To be very honest with you, I am not very closely conversant with the Catholic religion aspect of it. But what happens here is, what you have said is absolutely right, because Mother represented the West, but Mother has always said that she was born in the West, but she was always an Indian by heart. Yeah, and Sri Aurobindo was an Indian by birth, but brought in West. Yes. So what this synthesis between East and West must happen. And why do we say that East and West must happen? It is taken that the Western mind has got more inclination towards the scientific aspect of it, or towards the materialistic aspect of it. Okay. Now and for them, unless everything, whatever is seen by the sensory and realized by the sensory perceptions is right. Okay. So that means subjectivity is at the back, objective aspect is in the front. And it is on the East, it is exactly the opposite. Now, between them, either we come to a fact that a materialist has to be right, or a spiritualist has to be right. But the fact has to be one. Either if he is right, he should be wrong. If he is right, he should be wrong. But actually the fact, so which is that right? And then what Sri Aurobindo says is, both are right. Both are two aspects of the same coin. So they are not different. So to understand what the coin is, in full aspect, we need to bring in the synthesis between both the Eastern and Western cultures. And as far as the reincarnation is concerned, and then the mother coming forward is coming, and it's exactly, analogy is exactly the same, because Mother and Sri Aurobindo, many times he explains it, when the mother's physical form itself represents, the greater force, which probably the nature feels that the greater force is required to do the need of the hour. So that's probably an obvious thing which is happening. Which I think the time has come, because otherwise, why are we spending billions and billions of dollars on CERN? I know, which is a large Hadron Collider at CERN, experiment on CERN, just to find out how the creation must have happened, how the Big Bang would have happened. So I think there is an enormous synergy that is happening, and harmony which is going to come, because we are coming towards it.
My feeling, just to finish that, is that the importance of the raising of Jesus' mother into heaven is the spiritual expression.
Is the spiritual expression of it. Yes.
In the so important as an idea. And as a fact for a lot of people, that this is, although obviously a lot of the people in the West tend, especially Catholics,
generally
don't tend to look to the East so that they kind of have their own stream that they're following.
Yeah, but Sri Aurobindo doesn't stop here only at the birth and rebirth part of it. He goes, why Sri Aurobindo, in what way Sri Aurobindo differs or probably goes, takes a leap forward from the existing, this thing is two important things. No philosophical system yet has spoken about the evolution of consciousness. Everybody talks and then indirectly accepts the physical form of evolution. Okay. Now, evolution of consciousness is a new phenomena that has been given by Sri Aurobindo. Now, the second important aspect of it, which nobody has said, is the bringing the divinization of life upon earth, bringing down the supramental force. You don't have to go there. I mean, it is not so. If everybody leaves Earth, what is the Earth made up of? So it is not that. So it is the divine life, establishing divine life upon Earth is more important. So that is probably that is where its synergy happens. I think what you said and then what is no. So it is the bringing down, or that's what the work is happening. So it is the establishing. Bringing down that supramental force, which Mother and Sri Aurobindo has already done. They have done for us, and that's how it is.
Derek?
Yes, I've got a question, but I just wanted to say how nice it is to have a physical presence of a speaker rather than through a television screen, a computer screen, because
But
the
he
atmosphere.
behind the screen.
The atmosphere is certainly not the same. The vibrations are just there. And I just want to thank you for coming here.
And one more thing is, you can bombard him with the questions. In the screen, it's easy.
Yeah, at the moment there are no questions on the chat, so
Yeah.
no, there aren't any.
This may be very mundane, but I wonder if you could
please.
just comment. I happen to, I've also got a partial scientific background, although that's not been my life. So, and what interests me with my spiritual life, if that's the right word, and modern physics, and seeing, our truth, this is trying to express itself. So I happen, with that in mind, I found myself going and listening to Brian Cox recently. Actually at the Royal Opera House, it was a sort of sound thing, and where this is the comment that I would be interested in. It was as though he was talking about Big Bang and all the rest of it, and the creation of the universe with all this fantastic, sound and light and so on. But he's talking about the truth. At least I think he knows he was talking about, the origin of truth. But left out this, stopped at the material, or seeing to, as I understood him, just dealing with material existence. And part of me said, yes, but so what if you just comment on where there's the apparent blindness of nuclear and other physicists.
What exactly is the
So it's not really, it's a comment.
Yeah.
Could you comment on this
Apparent blindness.
this
isn't it?
apparent blindness of this Western, I suppose it is, scientific way of looking at things, when they are so obviously, to themselves it seems, concerned with the truth, and that there are other forms of truth available to them. I could see Brian Cox sitting and understanding him. He's a musician. So I'm perplexed with that. And I just wonder if you have a comment.
You are perplexed as to how we are bringing in this energy. I mean, that's
No,
It's more like,
Yeah.
if I understood your buzz,
please.
it's they scientists or the Western world, they feel that they have latched onto the truth in a scientific way, but they're completely blind to the spiritual aspect of it.
Yeah.
And how do you reconcile that?
Just focusing on the material.
Yeah,
part.
material.
Yeah, and the truth is in the West too, the non-material, and shouting at it. It's there. But
Yeah, I have understood this. See what that's precisely the reason why it is required. The need of the hour is that Sri Aurobindo says to understand the real nature, to understand the spirit in its true manner, is a scientist has to become a yogi, and yogi has to become a scientist. Now, why? Why is that? Suppose we take it like this. Earlier, suppose a spectrum of light. If you could see only 7 colors of light, okay, I was not able to see infrared or the ultraviolet. So I was happy with 7 colors. But then there were the equipment who could actually understand, okay, I'm not able to see them, but those forces exist. Now, the microwaves, something like that. All these, suppose I am able to now look at the irony of it. I know my mobile can transfer the data to your mobile without any physical connection. But if I say that a human being who has created the mobile is capable of transferring the data from my mind to your mind, I don't believe it. The mobile which I have created, I believe that it has got a capacity to transfer the data. So here the problem is, we are slowly realizing, even the West is realizing the fact that there are certain things which are beyond sensory perception. So those things, just because I am not able to see, is not there, it cannot be negated. So that is actually where the biggest point here is, let us take 2 scientists, Einstein and then Stephen Hawking, for example. Stephen Hawking was an atheist to the core. Now, in the universe, there are what are called as, it's called fine-tuning of the universe, okay? They are called as Goldilocks constants. For example, gravity is a constant. It can never change on Earth. Now, the distance between sun and Earth is a constant. It cannot change. So distance between moon and between every distances, the percentage of oxygen, for example, in the Earth atmosphere is being maintained to about 22 to 25 degrees since billions and billions of years. How? So this is the question. These are called the Goldilocks constants. And then coming back to what Stephen Hawking has said about, this is called the fine-tuning of the universe. That means nobody knows why the percentage of oxygen in the atmosphere is not slightly higher or slightly lower. How is it that it is being maintained so precisely at that since billions of years ago? How, in spite of everything, the whole universe, every particle is moving around along its own axis, around somebody, around everybody. Even then, there is not even a centimeter of variation. How? So these are the aspects which are, he said, Stephen Hawking makes a statement saying that I cannot explain the reason how in Earth, so much of fine-tuning has been done, unless there is some God who is an extremely intelligent person who knows that this fine-tuning is required for the existence. But I take after that, I don't know the reason for fine-tuning. Who did it? I don't know. So similarly, there are several experiments like this, which we are not. I don't know if you should read Fritz of Capra, for example. If you read Fritz of Capra, and there are many other, Gary Zukav is another author. If you read these people, I mean, the synthesis between the East and then the West is actually tremendously understood. They try to be being experts in the science and then this thing. For example, the subatomic particles, the dancing of subatomic particles is related to something in the east and then the west. The building block that makes the universe. Charaka Samhite, which is a part of Ayurveda, thousands and thousands of years before anybody is born, it says man comprises of every element that exists in the universe. Now, isn't it a science? Just because the Western scientist is not able to understand Charaka Samhite, it cannot be negated. Now that understanding is slowly coming. I mean, when Galileo said the earth is going round the sun, he was stoned. I mean, that was the biblical truth here. Because somebody said, earth is the central focus, everything goes round it. It was not truth. Earth is a globe, round. It was not accepted. So when these are the intricacies the nature is solving, but please believe me, I am able to understand the globe is round only because of science. The beauty is here is this is where the contribution of the West comes into the picture. So the Western mind and the Eastern mind, both are absolutely necessary to bring in the synergy. I need the advanced medical equipment to understand what is inside. Even the physical body, I don't know what happens after I take one morsel of food from here. I know only the taste part of it. I don't know what happens if it goes from here. Really don't know anything. So I need science to understand these things. And from science is what? Ultimately, it is the attitude of the mind which has to be scientific. So fortunately, the West has that inbuilt DNA probably to be more and more scientific, more and more. It is materialistic along with the attitude of analysis, and that analysis capability to for the discretion and analysis is the speciality of human species.
I have a question. So, you spoke about evolution and evolution happening in any case, whether you want it or you don't want it. So does it mean those who don't aspire to go to the next level, will they be left behind, or will they be carried along with the others who are aspiring for it? Or how do you envisage the whole situation? Is it going to be human race as the next lot of chimpanzees, and then there's the supramental, race? Or is the aspiration of the collective few going to carry the whole of humanity in its stride?
Yeah, Mother has beautifully answered your question, so I don't have to worry about it. She said, when man came into the picture, monkeys continued to be there, right? So when Superman comes into the picture, for Superman, man will be a monkey. So he will continue to stay there.
The Superman can carry the rest of the
Exactly.
man monkeys along with
Now look, how many of us? Now look, we are all talking. We are all extremely proud that we are scientific bent of mind, right? How many dimensions do you understand? Not only you in the sense, sitting is a question to everybody here. How many dimensions do I understand? 3 dimensions, which is the 4th dimension, which we talk about, time as the 4th dimension. Beyond that, what? Nothing. We don't even understand what time is, different. We understand 1st dimension, that is a dot. I know where to stand. That's it. 2nd dimension, I understand because I know how to go between 2 points. Okay. I go from A to B. I know I can go by car, I can go by walk, I go here. I have mastered that dimension. I have mastered my location. I have mastered the 3rd dimension also, because go vertical dimension. I can go it vertically at any point in time. The science has helped me to go into that. Similarly, I can go to that point, establish my space station, come back to Earth. That means I have mastered that vertical dimension also. The 4th dimension, have you mastered? Can we go back in time and come back?
One day maybe. One day maybe. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
I believe in supramental doing anything. I insist on my daughter perhaps inventing a time machine. Keep telling her that's my daughter there. So maybe she can do it. I don't know.
No,
I believe it.
maybe no. As of now,
As of now,
we do not understand the fourth dimension. But there are scientists who are talking about 11th dimension. There are human beings who are scientists, who are here in Cambridge, who were in Cambridge probably. They talked about 7th dimension. They talked about 11th dimension. What do we understand? We can't even understand what 5th dimension is. Einstein came and then he talked about the universe 5 dimensions, universe 6 dimensions. Around the black hole, it is so many other dimensions, which I don't understand. Vedas speaks 64, God has 64 dimensions. We are not even understanding 4th dimension. So, Superman will come in an organization. What happens if there are about, let us say, 100 people in the organization? I think all 100 people will not work in the organization. There will be some key people who work, about 10 to 12 people in the organization who are the key drivers. All others follow the instruction, they meet the goal, they meet the target, everything is fine. But the company organization is driven by 4 or 5 key people. So that is the role Superman is going to play.
everybody benefits.
And everybody will get benefited. The way monkeys get benefited. And also experiment. They will get exposed to the experiments.
The lab rat.
So it's better is to participate.
Be the leader.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a bit confused with the Chittas, the Manas, the Manipurus. Can you explain that again, what they actually are in English, those terms? The Chitta, the Manas, the Manipurus, and all that you sort of came over to it as late.
The different layers.
Yeah.
The different layers of mind.
Yeah.
The different layers of when you go within,
Yeah.
You're talking about the different layers of mind, or higher mind.
When I came in, you use all these terms.
Annamaya
Yeah.
Purusha.
Yeah.
Annamaya Purusha.
And the Chitta and the Manas and all.
Yeah. No, this is actually, I was talking about the construction of a human body as per the Vedanta or the Vedic wisdom. So this appears as a story in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, or the Taittiriya Upanishad, where the question is said, like this, the human body is made up of 5 layers, it is said. So this is the gross body. This is the layer, which is the gross layer, the physical body. So that is the physical layer. There is the outermost layer. And then the second layer, which actually is slightly subtle than the physical body, is my emotion. My physical body is not the only thing. And within the physical body, there are emotions which are there. Okay? My heart is not responsible for my emotion. There's something else which is responsible for my emotion. So there is the second layer which comes into the picture. Then there is a third layer which comes as the body. Let us say it is the layer of mind. The third layer is the mind. Actually, it is that mind which is slightly different. Mind is capable of except discretion. Mind is capable of understanding everything. It is understanding of looking at things and then understanding, general understanding. But a little higher aspect of it, where the intellect comes into the picture, where the analysis comes into the picture, where the discretion comes into the picture, where the logic comes into the picture, there you need higher grade of mind. So that is the Vijnanamaya Purusha. That is the 4th layer. 5th layer is the true self, which is deep within, and which is responsible for all the 4 remaining, the 4 layers what we discussed, and it controls everything in general. But because of our ignorance, we feel that every layer is independent of its own. So because I feel that I don't have any control over, look, my true self tells me that smoking is bad for health. But I know now it is that, I know it is bad for health, but still I give up. I do take up that activity in spite of knowing very well that I have an indication, but my body wants it. My desire, it is that my physical body doesn't want it. My desire, it's my desire which wants it. So so we are comprised of several layers of these aspects. So that is the layer which, so in addition to this is the Vedanta and the Sri Aurobindo's layers of minds which I was talking.
And the chitta of the second one sounds good. The chitta of the second one, is that correct?
Chitta first.
The chitta is the the chitta is the first one.
That's gross body.
No, chitta is the four parts of minds. Okay, the four parts of the minds. These are the four layers. The chitta is the first layer, which means to say that it is like it takes photographs of everything and then keeps it. It's in the store. So then somebody needs to pick it up. So, but it is different from subconscious mind. Now this chitta it's a storehouse. The second layer is the mind proper. It is the mind proper. It is then Sri Aurobindo differentiates between thinking mind and dynamic mind also. When the thinking mind comes into picture, it realizes, it helps to analyze, and then logic comes into the picture, analytical ability comes into the picture. When these things come into the picture, then we go a step higher, which becomes the intellect. For example, there's the buddhi part of it. For example, a scientist may fall in this level. It's immaterial, it's imperative for him to understand. And then that is why it is related to illumined mind. That is related. For example, I've been working on my hypothesis for several years, and suddenly I get, okay, this is to be validated. This could be the reason. So that kind of a illumination comes into the picture, and that is required for that particular thing. But it is beyond the ordinary mind part of it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry, we've gone over time a little bit, but the last thing to say is that normally on such a Sunday, we have a workshop where we end up, discussing what is it that we need to do to change, based on the different topics that we pick. So here you've talked about the journey, and and related to that question, the journey is already going on. It has been going on for billions of years, and we're in the last 12,000 years or so, we are in a sort of perhaps a more focused journey, perhaps. So what do we take away today to say, how do we either proceed on the journey or get onto a journey, or how we become conscious of the journey? What would you say is the message for our change?
Hop on the train.
Mhm.
I mean, it's as simple as that. The first step you need is.
But aren't we already on the train?
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So when you're on the train, you have the whole from engine to the last bogie. It's a vestibule. You go anywhere you want. So what I mean to say is we are doing, and there is a Sri Aurobindo talks about the parallel stairs in Life Divine. So this aspiration is required because when the aspiration is there is a grace which also comes into the picture. You want to climb one step, and if it is difficult to climb one step, but there is a force which is pulling you also in the up. So there is a pull and push. Both there's the aspiration part of it, and also there is a grace part of it, which you'll able to go a little higher. And this is one of the workshop. I give this as an example. Suppose what we have to do is it is very simple. Now let us say you're on this side and then I am on that side. Okay, he is on that side, and there is a car which is painted right on this side and white on this side, and then it just moves fast. If I ask you what the color of the car is, you will obviously say it is white. But whatever you have seen. And he will say that he will disprove, try to justify that it is red, color of the car is red and not white. And you will start disproving it. Right? All you have to do is to know what the real color of the car is. You have to shift your position in front of the car, raise your position so that allow the car to pass, see it from the front. Then you will be able to realize that the car is actually painted with red and white. So all we need to do is shift the position, shift the level. So, and this will happen by surrendering it to the mother. There's no point in doing PhD on swimming without getting into water. As I say.
So we end up all our workshops by surrendering to the mother.
Yes.
But it's a beautiful concept of shifting the position, I think,
Yeah.
and a very nice analogy. So thank you very, very much.